time ago, I did some research on inventors, particularly women inventors. And I noticed that many of them invented things to make things clean, or to somehow make things all better. And I discovered someone named Mary Anderson. Mary Anderson invented the windshield wiper, which you're listening to right now, in 1903 or somewhere those whereabouts. And I'm interviewing Mary Anderson for you so she can tell you her story. Mary, where did you spend your childhood?
I grew up in a small town in Alabama called Laverne. I had 2 brothers and 3 sisters. Seeing that I was the oldest girl, I had a lot to do taking care of household chores and the younger ones. We went to the Methodist church every Sunday. I'm not sure how much our family believed in God, but we loved to sit there and listen to that pastor's stories. His sermons were all about God's gifts, and he always found a way to tell us how God had blessed us with good bodies, good souls, and good working machines in our little town. I thought the machine part was a little strange, but he told such a good story that I let it all flow in one ear and out the other. His talk about our bodies and machines always made me feel kind of dreamy and confused. It seemed that I could just as well grow up to be one of those big green train engines, or on the other hand, that Papa's new car could have turned out to be my uncle. Somewhere in there I got to believing that inside my body there were probably lots of different little engine parts, and all of them were blessed by God.
So, Mary, what were your parents like?
My papa was in the furniture trade, and my mama, when she could, helped him in the business. Papa had a real talent for business, but he was kind of sickly. Every winter, Mom and us kids had to take over his duties while he was recovering from some kind of flu or pneumonia. I guess his personal machine wasn't made entirely in the model God had in mind.
And Mary, was your family name always Anderson?
Well, yes, but Anderson's a Scandinavian name.
Yeah.
There were no other Andersons in Laverne as far as I know. Most of my relatives lived up near the top of Mississippi in Minnesota and Canada.
Right.
That's where Papa and Mama were born. Papa thought the warm climate of Alabama would suit his style and his health better. After he married Mama, they moved their part of the business to Alabama. I guess they did all right by moving there, and they made good money.
Money. So were you well-to-do?
Papa and Mama ran that furniture business real well. They had friends and contacts in big cities like New Orleans and St. Louis and kept up good relations with family in Minnesota. They must have bought and sold furniture all the way up to Winnipeg. We lived in a big old house with a giant-sized warehouse out back.
And were you allowed to go to school, Mary?
At first, only the boys in our town headed off to school, but Papa and Mama saw no sense in that. They liked to see themselves as folks who could set a modern example for Laverne. Soon enough, we girls were going to the neighborhood school just like the boys. We learned to read, write, do arithmetic. We also had some history and geography on the side.
So tell us, when did you first leave?
After I grew too old for school, I spent a lot of my extra
Alabama.
time fixing and cleaning the printing press in our church. Our pastor had the idea that all God's machines should be extra clean too. I was pretty handy for a girl, and Papa had taught me a thing or two about furniture repair. It was while I was cleaning that press that I started to dream about how my inner woman parts worked and how they always seemed to be able to keep themselves in good working order. I kept thinking about how fine it was that once a month they did their job cleaning themselves and getting ready for their next month of work. I was never exactly clear on what all their work was, but they seemed to do it just fine. I guess they were really one of those perfect machines. During those months between school and my future, I got to study how clocks and other things with gears and parts worked, thinking all the time that maybe I had parts just like that inside me too. We didn't have any biology or anatomy in school, so I just kept letting my fantasy make up more details as to how my insides must have worked. I dreamed up some pretty good-looking pulleys and levers and springs, figuring out how my heart kept thumping and pumping. After a while, I got kind of bored with my life in Laverne, always helping out with the house and family and keeping other people's stuff clean. My papa saw my sour moods and thought it might be good for me if I could work for him in the business. 'Cause he was so sickly, he sent me out on the road every November to do the buying and selling for him. First, I traveled up and down the Mississippi, and then I started heading up the East Coast, eventually as far as north as New York City.
Wow, New York City. I think it was 1903. Tell us about your visit.
I was riding the streetcar down 7th Avenue on the way to a meeting in the furniture district when I noticed that every couple of minutes the driver would have to get out and brush all that ice and snow building up on the front window. It meant for a lot of starting and stopping, which was really getting on all our nerves as passengers. You know how those New York folks like to rush around and be in a hurry all the time.
I know.
Look at that poor guy getting in and out of the streetcar. I got to dreaming again about how my womanly parts would never put up with such a chaotic mess.
No.
And would surely find a better way to clean themselves out if they got as dirty as that windshield.
Yep.
It was right then that the idea came into my head that there must be a way to help that hard-working man clean off his window from inside the car. That night I went back to my hotel room and drew up the plans for a kind of wooden arm with a rubber blade that could be steered from the inside of the car to wipe off the windshield. I stayed on with friends in New York that year and took care of getting my little invention patented. My friends thought I was off my rocker, and I made sure I never told them all that stuff about my inner parts and God's perfect machine.
Yeah.
By the time my wipers found their way to most cars, I was living up in Minnesota and running another part of the family business.
Yep, back up in Minnesota. So, did you ever have a partner, Mary, or did you have children?
No, that kind of life never came my direction.
No.
I had lots of friends in the business, and when I missed that close kind of feeling with folks around me, I'd just dream about all my inventions and how they made up the most special parts of me.
Yeah.
It seemed like at the time that my inventions, my fantasies were good enough for me. My later years, when my mind wandered off and I dreamt my favorite old dreams about how my womanly parts had worked so perfectly.
Yeah.
And then I felt kind of sad that after a time they'd stopped working.
That's not
They must have decided that their big job was finally over.
No, that's not so sad. Well, thank you, Mary. Thank you for visiting us and telling us about your life. We are sitting in the middle of an organ. The pipes are all around us. The ear on the organ is very low, so you don't hear the organ sound. You just hear the organ being played and the mechanism and the resonance of the biggest pipes in the organ. This piece is dedicated to the swift, the Giersvalu. The Giersvalu can fly from the very southernmost part of the world to the northern part, which is our part here also. And it can fly most of its hours of its life. For instance, it eats in flight, it sleeps, it has like these two brains in flight, it even has sex in flight. But nowadays, our buildings are being designed where there are fewer and fewer places for the Giersvalu, for the swallow, the swift, to be able to nest. So we are sitting in an organ. Maybe this is our nest. When I was 7 years old, I lived in Stillwater, Minnesota. We had a big garden. There were no avocados at that time in Minnesota. 14 years old, visiting my grandparents in California, avocado trees in the yard. 21 years old, undergraduate, Albuquerque, New Mexico, enchiladas, guacamole, burritos. 28 years old, young professional, Los Angeles, California. Avocado sandwiches, avocado salads, avocado shampoo, avocado lotions. 35 years old, immigrant, Amsterdam, the Netherlands. Do you want me here? Do you need me here? Should I go back to where I came from? There were no avocados here anyway at that time. 35, 42, 49, 56, 63 years old. Amsterdam, the Netherlands. I take my avocado. I cut it open. I drop the seed out. Do I want this avocado? Do I need this avocado? Should I send this avocado back to where it came from? The Netherlands and the United States are the greatest importers of avocados in the entire world. They import their avocados from South America, South Africa, Mexico. Should I send this avocado back to where it came from? They were created in the likeness of a myth. Their stopcock opened and closed to breathe. Science fell in love with their dials and puffs and metal discs, and particularly their slippery songs. Someone heard them underwater and named them Siren. Science was happy to make them sing just like they imagined. When their breath stopped, there was silence. They grew cylinders, fans, electricity horns. They whooped, wailed, hollered, called, cried, howled, roared, growled. Their chant was seduction. Their chant was danger. They sang of rocks, cliffs, fires, disease, disaster, guns, bombs, water, wind, quakes, crime. They were not allowed to weep or lament. They were objects of duty and sometimes music. We are no sex, one sex, all sex. We came from the sea and went back in, and came back out to dwell on the rocks and cliffs. We are of body and mind. We are of song and silence. I have a siren in me. It's the kind that drives around, wailing doom, calling dread. I feel it in my blood. I feel it in my bones. It does not pause when I sleep.